Hello, everyone. Hope you are well. Hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. I took the week off. I was off of work and spent time with my kids. So, hope you're doing well. Today's episode is about the animals. And if you don't know what the animals are and you don't have a background in objective personality, I will give you a brief overview so you can make some sense of today. But there's plenty of videos that you can look up on YouTube about what the animals are if you want more context. I think the animals are one of the greatest contributions that objective personality has made to typology and understanding our type. They basically do a couple things. One, they add a layer of nuance to our understanding of introversion, extroversion, and just how our energy is expressed throughout the day and in our lives. And two, they are really kind of the most primal part of our personality. So what an animal is basically in your traditional Myers-Briggs function stack or Jungian function stack, you've got four functions. You've got a primary, you've got a secondary, tertiary, and an inferior function, right? So an animal is basically two of these functions working together. And so basically, we all have two extroverted functions and two introverted functions. So the animals just add a layer of nuance to our understanding of our type. So for example, if you have two extroverted functions, so let's say you have FE and NE as part of your function stack, FE and NE create the play animal, right? Because those are the functions you're going to be using to play process, which just means you're talking things out, okay? If you had FE and NE, your other functions would be TI and SI. So that would be your sleep animal, because your inner world is your introverted functions, right? That's kind of your identity, right? So your play is kind of your persona, how you're engaging and processing outwardly with the tribe. Your sleep is your own identity and what you're processing internally. Okay, so those are what we call energy animals, right? Because sleep energy is preserving energy for self. Play is expending energy and connecting and processing with the tribe. Okay. Obviously, play is extroverted, sleep is introverted. So then you have the information animals. So you've got blast, which would be you're using the same functions as an example. Blast would be the FE plus the SI, because you're taking narrowed down information and you're communicating it to the tribe. Okay, that's blast. And then the opposite of that, the introverted counterpart of blast would be consume, which would be NE and TI. So you're basically gathering concepts, NE, for self. That's consume. And those are what objective personality calls the information coins. Now again, all these different perspectives of personality dynamics just add nuance to how your nervous system operates, right? To go back to the first video I made in this series, I said that one of the most foundational things to understand about relationships and compatibility and objective personality and just personality study in general is that your functions are intimately tied to your nervous system. So the animals are just giving you another angle on how your body responds to the world. When you get in a relationship with someone, you're starting a relationship with their nervous system, and your two nervous systems are coming together to attempt to attain peace and harmony. And successful relationships have some level of that, because if you're triggered all the time, you're going to end up wanting to leave, as we've already talked about. So the animals just add some nuance. And to be a little bit more specific, these animal coins, I think, are basically our communication preferences and how we process, how we talk things out or keep things in, the assumptions around each. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about that because it has a huge impact on your relationships. animal stack that you have and the animal stack that your partner has a massive impact on the assumptions you're going to make about what is the proper and appropriate way to communicate things. And if it's different, you're going to, whether you know it or not, you're going to try to force your partner to play your game. And if they don't, you're going to feel like something's off. So being able to understand this is really helpful. And if you're looking for a partner, we'll talk about what things might be helpful because the animals are a big part of compatibility. So I have a couple thoughts on this. Two main things that I want to go over about animal compatibility. So similar to the functions, you've got 4 animals. And they operate on poles as well. So if you're savior play, you're demon sleep. If you're dominant play, your sleep is inferior. If you're savior blast, your consume's inferior, right? So they have to be on opposite poles, just like the functions. Now, whatever your last animal is, you do very little. You'll do it a little bit at the very end of the day, but most of your energy is going toward your top 3 animals. Dave and Shan have said that you need to set an alarm clock to remind yourself to do the 4th animal because you will just neglect it. It's even worse than your 4th function. We can do our 4th function, but the last animal is highly neglected and it can really impact relationships. So here's my working theory based on my experience of my own relationships. I have been with introverts. I have been with extroverts. I have been with infodoms. I have been with energy doms. I have not been with a partner that has the exact same animal stack as me, but I have a pretty good idea from the different stacks that I've been with in the grounded sensory of kind of what's happening with these different assumptions. So let's talk about a couple of them. If you are extroverted, okay, your assumption is that processing things happens together, right? This is play, but it's also extroversion, right? Extroverts are going to be talking things out. They're processing things externally. So if you've got sleep last or you have consume last, your default mode is talking everything out. Why? Because you've got play and blast in your top 3 animals. And if you've got play and blast in your top 3 animals, you're just expending more energy with the tribe. You're processing things externally. If you have play or blast last, you're going to be processing more internally. And so there's going to be more of an assumption that when I've got a problem or something's going on, I'm going to resolve it inside and then I'll come talk about it later, right? So let's say you've got one partner who is introverted and the other is extroverted. Well, in my experience, this is how I've experienced interacting with extroverts. And we'll talk about info dom and energy dom next because that's another important aspect of this. But my assumption, I am play last. I'm an ISTP, consume, sleep, blast, play. So my missing animal is play, which means I don't naturally talk anything out with anybody unless it's a life or death situation and I'm fully processed on the inside. Then I'll come talk about things with people. But my tidal waves in life have been from basically the tribe, like having to hit me on the back of the head, be like, hey, dude, where are you? You're not talking to us about anything. You're not processing anything with us. Who are you? Like, right? And so they have to force me to do the play processing. And I've learned as I've matured that I can't be mad at them for wanting me to do that because 75% of the population who doesn't have play last is doing that. So most people assume that things need to be more talked out than I talk them out. So the tribe's going to be pushing on me with that. Where this comes up in intimate relationships is I don't talk things out as readily. It's got to be very bad for me to start vocalizing concerns and problems because I'm going to process concerns that I have in a relationship inside. I am going to think a lot about it before I come out and talk about it. Now, I'll talk about this later. I am blast third, so I will talk things out in a relationship. And I'm also save your friends, which we'll get to that in another episode. But generally speaking, things have to get pretty pressurized inside of me to come out and talk a lot about it. My instinct is to try and process inside first, okay? Now, when I've been with extroverts, what I've noticed my nervous system doing is when they talk things out, an alarm clock goes on in my brain because I only talk things out when things are a big problem. So when they start talking things out, I interpret it as a bigger problem than it is. Why? Because my threshold for when I decide to talk things out in a relationship is much higher than my extroverted partners. Their assumption is, well, we just talk everything out. So they'll say something sooner than I will, and my nervous system will get zapped, and I'll be like, oh no, I'm in trouble, or there's a problem. And I've realized over time, no, especially with the sleep last, in my experience, they're just talking it out. They're processing, and they want me to process it with them, and it's just more stringent on my nervous system. So if you're in a relationship, you need to be aware of that mismatch, that if you have an extroverted partner, them talking it out doesn't mean that something's that wrong to you as an introvert, because it would take you as an introvert a lot longer to talk things out. Now, the problem that the extrovert has with the introvert is that they're gonna, in a relationship, feel like they've got to pull the introvert out. And they're going to be confused by the fact that why isn't the introvert talking more out with me? They're not coming out until there's a really big problem and stating it. So it's making things worse. And they're right. They're right. But their assumption of when things need to be talked out is just happening at a different threshold in the nervous system, right? So I've noticed for myself with extroverts, if I stay calm and I just talk things out like I would process in my own head, sleep processing, it's actually fine. It's not as bad as I think it is. And it actually calms down pretty quickly because the extrovert, that's all they want. They want you to ping with them. So I've gotten pretty activated and pretty triggered by things extroverts will say, but they're just talking it out. So now we can't change our nervous system. You can be aware of it. But if you're an introvert with an extrovert, this can be a challenge because it will sound alarm bells where there's really shouldn't necessarily be any. So learning to self-regulate in any relationship is really important. The more you can do that, the more you can kind of sit with that discomfort with your partner and try and learn to meet them in the middle and process a little more the way they do. I've realized that the more I play process, the better my relationships are. Let's just talk it out, get it on the table. It's not near as scary as I think it is. As a play last, talking everything out without thinking about it in my head, it's very scary. It feels like I'm exposed, it feels unsafe to my body. It's the same way an extrovert feels when they have to process internally. So that's something to be aware of in a relationship between extroverts and introverts. And by the way, in objective personality, we're not just defining introvert and extrovert as your first letter is E or I. We're defining it as what your last animal is. So if you're sleep last or consume last, you have blast and play in your top three, you're extroverted. If you are play last or blast last, you have consume and sleep, which are introverted animals. In your top three, you're introverted. So being aware of how those two communicate things differently is really helpful. It has really helped me pause in my relationships with extroverts and be like, wait a second, they're just talking it out. I'm not in trouble. They haven't thought about this. Because that's what I assume. I assume if they're coming to talk about it, that they've sat around and thought about it and they're bringing it to me and I'm busted. But I'm not. They haven't even thought about it. They're talking it out. So nothing is settled. Normally when I say something, it's settled. When an extrovert says something, they're still processing it. And if you can realize that as an introvert, it'll calm you down a lot. All right, so that's the first thing. The second thing is info dom versus energy dom. Now, I'm gonna link a link below of a video that Benjamin put up. And he basically condensed the ideas that he, Uzair, Catherine, and Ikram processed a couple years ago. But I think it's the best condensed version. Benjamin's PowerPoint video is the best overview of how info DOMs and how energy DOMs communicate and what they assume and the game they're playing in the world. So in the same way that extroverts and introverts are kind of playing this communication game where the extroverts are talking it out, the introverts are processing introvertedly and then coming out, right? The info DOMs and the energy DOMs are playing a game too. And the difference is that if you're an energy DOM, that means that one of your info animals is last. So you've got consume or blast last. And that means that you're balanced on expending and preserving energy. So you're gonna see the energy DOMs are pretty good at managing that energy, but there's also gonna be this balancing act between identity and persona. Okay, so persona is how the tribe perceives you. Identity is how you see yourself. The energy DOMs are keeping those two things in tight alignment so that there's congruence between their character of how they see themselves and how the tribe sees them, okay? They're doing that very well. And so that is gonna form assumptions about what should be done. That's the energy DOM game that they're playing, okay? Now, if you're an info DOM, you're not gonna respect that because you are missing one of those energy animals. So because of that, because you've got consume and blast in your top three and you're missing play or sleep, you are trying to align your identity with information, okay? Not with how the tribe sees you. You are not obligated to align your own identity with how the tribe sees you. And so what can happen is the energy DOMs are gonna have a lot more identity-based conversations about congruence with the tribe. And the info DOMs are gonna have identity conversations about congruence with information, right? So if these two things engage in a heated arena, it's gonna get very confusing very quickly because the energy DOMs are gonna get suspicious of the info DOMs not taking responsibility for aligning identity and persona. And the info DOMs are gonna get suspicious of the energy DOMs for not aligning identity and information, right? Again, I highly recommend getting into the video for more information and context on this because I know this is very conceptual. But the point is, if you can get some good awareness around these animals, what you are and what your partner is, you're gonna have a lot of aha moments of, oh, I see what they're doing. Now, it's not necessarily gonna calm your nervous system down just to know what they're doing. It will help a little. You're still probably gonna get activated. So here is my working theory at this point for what it's worth. The best, most compatible connection as far as animals is having the same last animal. That's my working theory right now. Having the same last animal means that you're both either info DOM and energy DOM, and you're both either introverted or extroverted. And if you can be the same on both of those things, communication is gonna flow a lot easier. Now, you're gonna have some maybe different challenges elsewhere, but if you are both play last, right, you're both gonna be introverted, you're both gonna be info DOM, and you're gonna have an easier exchange of info. If you're both sleep last, you're both gonna be extroverted, you're both gonna be info DOM, and I think things will be easier. If you're both blast last, you'll be introverted, and you will be energy DOM. And if you're consume last, you'll both be extroverted and energy DOM. So I think if you can share those two things, it's gonna make a huge impact in your compatibility and your ability to communicate because you're gonna be assuming a lot of the same things, right? And hopefully the context I gave earlier in the video is helpful for that. So comment below, let me know y'all's experience on this. Also, just as a side note, I'm going to be closing out this series pretty soon. I may do a few more episodes. I'm going to talk about the social types, and that'll pretty much be it. I might make a concluding video. As I continue to talk on this channel, I am going to try and simplify my language around these coins and make it more accessible to everyone, because most people don't know objective personality. And I want people to get these concepts whether or not they know ops. And so I'm gonna be trying to take future videos that I make on this channel in a more simplified direction, so that I can explain things in a way that can help more people. And then for the ones that wanna dive deeper, we can do that. But thanks for watching. I hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you in the next video.